It may not be the path that you're on. It may not be the path that you think you need to be on. It may not be with the people you think you need to be around. It may not be whatever. But if you trust that the universe is trying to bring you around to the right place, you have hope in that, and you have hope in your life and in your journey and in what you're able to do with other people, and then you have hope in your future.
Awakening isn't the end. It's what happens after. This is Wakened Earth. All right, welcome to Wakened Earth podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Dr. P.T. Wilson is coming on. He is a licensed mental health counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist, and retired clergy, and all-around great guy. So we're going to have him come on. We're going to talk and explore a little bit of this thing we call awakening. How you doing, Dr. P.T.?
Doing okay, and call me PT.
PT, got it. So I know you've said that the one experience that you had was a plane crash that kind of woke you up and altered your reality enough to pursue a different career. What I'd like to talk about is maybe before that happened, what was your life like growing up? What kind of environment were you in spiritually? All that kind of stuff.
So I grew up in Evansville, Indiana, in the inner city. My parents were first and second generation family members out of the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky and Tennessee. My mother went to college at what is now Western in Kentucky, and my father went to the Bowling Green Business College, which is now a part of Western in Kentucky. And they met there. My father's the first from his family in Tennessee to have a college degree. After World War II, they got married during the war. And after World War II, they settled in Evansville. And my older sister and I grew up there for the most part, about 10 months up in Fort Wayne. Evansville, Indiana. It's along the Ohio River. Yeah. It was the number 14 city on the Nazis list if they were ever going to attack the United States. Because during World War II, we produced one airplane a day, one Navy vessel a day, and did all kinds of ammunitions development in Evansville. Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, every once in a while, you'd still hear ammunition exploding at night, especially during electrical storms.
Wow. And I assume they would just ship it down the Mississippi and get it down
the Ohio River and then down the Mississippi. Yep.
Down through New Orleans, baby.
Yeah. So I grew up in a religious household.
Mm-hmm.
What originally was Methodist Protestant South, but became Methodist. I grew up in a inner city church that had speaking in tongues and had healing and different things of that nature.
Yeah, same here.
A lot of times you think of the Methodists as being extremely logical and liberal and very kind of dull, but there are strands of Methodism that are not that way. In fact, spiritualism comes out of Methodism. The Pentecostal church comes out of Methodism. Salvation Army comes out of Methodism. It's a huge umbrella, that whole Methodist movement.
Wow.
But that's where I grew up, and that was my origin story, and it was a good place for me.
Yeah, I grew up in the Pentecostal church, actually. So you talk about, the speaking in tongues and laying on of hands and all the spiritual works. It's amazing how you look back on it and the kind of hell and brimstone and damnation and all that kind of stuff. But it's offset by being raised in a spiritual mindset and already knowing that that's real. It's not just imagined. It's not just a little ritual that you do on Sundays, but it's a real thing and can really affect this 3D world that we live in.
The more I'm aware of my own journey and my own story, and the more I hear from other people and theirs, there comes a time in our spiritual development where we have to be dualistic. We have to be either or. We have to quote unquote take a side. And then there comes a moment after that in our spiritual development where we become more group oriented. And so our spirituality and our beliefs kind of reflect the group that we're in at that moment. And then a few days later, we may be in a different group. And then a few days later, another group.
Constant growth.
And that's just a part of our development. And then we go through a development phase of being so individualistic that we don't care what anybody else is doing. We're on our own path and da 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 da
Yeah.
da. And it's just, we're constantly developing, and you can spot some of the patterns of what those development cycles, those development levels have to include.
So, as we said, at the beginning of the show, you're into counseling, and do you ever deal with spiritual matters when you're counseling, as far as dealing with spiritual beliefs of the past and how they affect the mind the way it is now?
A lot of times that's called script. And for a person to make the changes that they want to make their life better, they have to change their script.
Programming too is what I've heard it called. Yeah, your programming growing up.
Sometimes when a person is coming out of religious fundamentalism, no matter what the religion, so often they have to go through a period for 6 or 7 years where they reject anything spiritual. And then it starts coming back into their life in a way that makes sense for them where they are then.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun process to be a part of with people.
Yeah, I imagine so, getting to walk through that and become a completely different person. Because I
Sometimes
know.
they go back to the beliefs that they had before because now they have a different way of understanding those. And sometimes they go back to the practices that they had before because now they have a different way of understanding those. And sometimes they expand and go completely different walks. You have to believe that a person is okay, and you have to believe that a person has the right and the ability of making their life better. And unless if they're doing something harmful to themselves or others, then you've got to trust that they're on the right path for them.
It's all an individual path, isn't it? That's for
At the
sure.
stage of our development. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There are certain things that I personally have brought from my past, but most of the stuff I just moved on from. I don't know that it's nice going to the church that I do go to, having the familiarity of some of the old hymns and stuff like that. But like you said, it's a totally different understanding of what those words mean than when I was hearing them growing up, you know?
Yep. Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So let's get into what it was that kind of changed your path. You had mentioned an airplane crash that a bunch of your friends didn't
So
make it
it's
out
a
of.
story that'd take 3 or 4 minutes to tell, if that's okay.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, go for it.
So I went to the University of Evansville, great school, came out with a couple of majors and three minors and a couple in 2.5 years, and was on a path that was going to take me to the East Coast to some Ivy League schools. And on the day where I was supposed to sign papers for scholarships, it just didn't feel right. So I walked into the chaplain's office, and I won't repeat exactly what I said, but it was something like, "What am I doing? Help me out here."
Yeah.
And after 8 hours, he had me agreed that I would go to a seminary for a year to give myself some space. I'd be in a graduate school. The hours would transfer later on to another degree. And I agreed to go if I could go to a school that had a philosophy department and if it wouldn't cost me a dime. And sure enough, he found a place. Denver, Colorado, Isla School of Theology, great school. And I went there for the first few months. And at the end of the quarter, I hated all those religious people. And I hated all those professors that didn't make a lot of sense to me. I even cussed two of them out in class in front of other students. And I did everything but sign the papers to withdraw. I ran out of time. So I had to come back to Evansville. And 4 days later, with the idea that I was going to go back to Denver and sign the withdrawal papers after the new year, 4 days later, I'm sitting at a Denny's with one of my best friends, and the Denny's is on the south side of Whirlpool, and the airport for Evansville is on the north side of that old Whirlpool fact. And we see all these ambulances go by, and then the Red Cross morgue on wheels go by, and then we hear that there's been an airplane crash, and I find out that it's the basketball team from University of Evansville. So my last week before I went to Denver, I worked with the chaplain during what used to be called freshman orientation, what's now first year orientation. And I got to know a lot of the new students and their families, and then shared in the worship service on Sunday morning that they had at the beginning of their first week of college. So the night of the crash, I went into the chapel and I put my coat in the chaplain's office and I said, I'm here until you go, use me. And so I was there for 4 days, and he had me work with the television networks. We had a national network that came into our chapel that was all in dark except for the cross being lit up. We had about 1,200 students in hysteria. They came in with an infrared camera, and I got them out. First time I ever said a few choice words. And I worked with the chaplain as he worked with families that had to be told their sons were dead. And as we put together plans for what to do on the campus for the students and the faculty, and what to do for the community, because Evansville was in great grief. And then the next 2 weeks, I was surrounded by grief all the time, and I wanted to get away from the grief. So I went back to Denver and I went back to seminary. I mean, my way was paid.
Yeah. Why not,
And
right?
they accepted me back. I had to do a little bit of groveling, but okay.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that first year, unexpected door opened up, and I got to be a hospital chaplain at a 400-bed unit hospital in Denver, all terminal cancer. And I worked with those folks for about 5 months. And I started realizing I was having experience after experience after experience of doors opening up. And it was my choice whether or not to go through the door. But if I did, I'd be changing. And years later, I came up with a language system for understanding that I went from being somebody who serves to somebody who's a servant. Because when you serve, you have the option of saying yes or no, or maybe. I'll do it for a while. I'll do it with these folks, but not a, but when you're a servant, you say, okay, I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do.
Yeah, whatever, man. I'm in.
That became the language of my journey. And so I call myself a servant, and I find students along the way, whether in United Methodist seminaries or whether in colleges or at Camp Chesterfield or at other places of spiritual training, about 1 out of 6, maybe 1 out of 7 people I run into in those settings, they're on the path of being a servant. I'm not discounting people who serve at all. And now that
Right.
I'm retired, I get to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. 43 consecutive years in full-time parish ministry in the United Methodist Church. You go where the bishop sends you.
Yeah.
But retired, I've already turned down 5 churches.
I've
That
had enough.
chapter of my
Thank
life
you
is
very much.
over.
I think I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, that chapter of my life is over.
Yeah. So basically, the airplane crash with the team led you into full-time ministry.
Yeah, and I've served in a variety of different ways, all the way from hospital chaplaincy, prison chaplaincy, community work, full-time parish ministry. I was the chaplain at DePaul University for 8 years. My training and then my work in mental health counseling. I've run a training program now for people doing pastoral care and counseling for 24 years. It's been a wonderful journey.
So serving the servant.
I've been a guest teacher at Chesterfield since 1997.
Uh-huh.
I've done workshops and classes all over the country, up in Canada. It's been great.
It's amazing what spirit can do with our lives once we surrender and just walk through those doors.
Yeah,
I know
aren't you
that.
walking that right now?
Yeah, 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 that's what I was about to say. That's what I'm trying to do, like, I opened this practice because the door opened, and, I was like, "Okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, so you're gonna have to help me." So, here I am, and here's what I'm doing, and, just just trying to get it right, you know?
What I've discovered, at least for me, but I've seen it in a whole bunch of other people, is that when you're walking this path, you will come up against obstacles. I mean, it's like slamming into the door, slamming into a brick wall, and you kind of lick your wounds and then you go, hold it. If I feel like this is the right path for me, then the universe is going to work with me in getting through this. I remember the first time I went for testing at Chesterfield to be certified. I mean, I'd taken every single class they had, and I'd done well in every single class, and I'd even had to correct a few of the teachers along the way. And so I was ready for that exam, and I'd studied and I walked in that day and I put my money down, and the dean said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Last week we came up with a new policy. It now takes another year of study before you can take the exam." I was livid for about 3 or 4 months. And then I thought, hold it. If this is what I believe, then I need to go back and work in that system, and I need to go through the door, and I need to let them open the door for me. And
Thing
so
happens for a reason.
a year later, I took the exams and I passed.
Now did it ever become evident why you needed that extra year?
No, that's happened over and over and over again in my journey.
Uh-huh.
Anytime I'm at the point on a path where I know this is where the spirit's shoving me,
Yeah.
there will come that brick wall.
Yeah.
It's happened over and over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, for me, the lesson is if I know this is what I need to be doing,
Yeah.
then I need to work with this and get through it. That happened when I applied for national certification for American Association of Pastoral Counselors, and then for American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. And okay, I'll do what I need to do. And it's like I don't want to use the word surrender. And I know that's the word you used a while ago. I think that's appropriate for a different thing than what I'm talking about. My language. If I get over my own plans and say, but I still believe this is what the universe would have me to do, then I'm going to have to depend upon somebody else's plans.
Right.
Even sometimes if their plans are not really in alignment with the universe. But if I believe this is what the universe wants me to do,
Yeah. Then you just have to trust it and make sure that that's the universe's plan.
I have to swallow my pride. I have to be humble.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
That happened on my doctorates as well. I've got 2 masters, 2 doctorates, 2 postdoctoral certifications. That happened on my doctorates. Slam right into that wall. I had one of my advisors on my first doctorate who said, "You cannot study that here, and I will make sure that you do not continue." And 2 years later, the man flew in from New York to be on my dissertation team to affirm my work and the importance of it.
That must felt good.
It's happened over and over again. I
Yeah.
know plenty of other people for whom it's happened. And when it happens to them, if I believe that they're on the right path and it's simply that they've hit that wall, I'll
Yeah.
sit with them for hours. I'll lose sleep to let them do what they need to do in order to get ready.
It's funny sometimes you hit that wall and do it, and then sometimes it just seems so easy, like you're just kinda gliding along through it.
When the door is
And
open.
yeah, when the door's open and it's right. So, I mean, you don't think that when you hit that wall that it's, spirit telling you that this is not the right path. You think that maybe the spirit is telling you, you gotta work on something before you get through this door.
For me, I've had that. Well, I'll give you an example. I had worked for a year on my first doctorate when the trustees of that school killed the program. Okay, that's out of my hands.
Yeah, nothing you can do about it.
I I moved on. 2 years later, I applied to a PhD program in which they accepted 12 people. There were 96 who applied, including me, and I was number 13 on the list. I kept on praying for somebody to die. Let that slot open.
Somebody needs to transition over here.
But those are not walls.
Okay.
Those are not when I'm moving forward and I'm so confident and I'm so sure, bam, that's the wall.
Because you're believing in your abilities rather than trusting spirit.
No, it's because it's as if I've got to trust that spirit really does want me to go through this. And so I've got to work through whatever obstacles human beings have put up to it.
Doing the work, showing the work.
And we've got some great faculty up at Camp Chesterfield. I dare say half of us have gone through the same thing in one setting or another. Normandy Ellis is a good friend of mine. She's gone through it 4 or 5 times, running against those walls. And then you're dazed for a little bit, and then you have to say, "Universe, is this what you really want me to do? Yes? Then you're gonna have to help me work around this wall and get through it." And the universe does.
Yeah, I've been told that, I should ask my guides for help more often, that they're just sitting there waiting for you to ask for help. Like you're not going to get the help unless you ask for the help. And that's, like you said, that's humbling to know that you can't do it on your own, that you have to ask. So maybe that's the whole point of it, is try and try and try and then going, "Oh, God, I can't do it. You're going to have to do it. Please help." I went through a period where I was watching a lot of near death experiences. And when they were studying them, some of the people who have studied them the most have come across some of the negative near death experiences, which is like, I think 3%, maybe 2 or 3% of negative experiences. And they say every time when they have those experiences, the negative part of it ends as soon as they ask for help. As soon as they ask for help, boom, all the negativity is gone and it's love and light just like everybody else's experience. But they feel like they had to do that because of their programming, or, their religious upbringing, that they were still holding on to, that, I'm a sinful person and I deserve to be punished. They had to feel like they were punishing themselves until they asked for help. God, please help, or Jesus help, or Buddha help, or whoever they believed in. As soon as they asked for help, those experiences were converted over into positive experiences rather than the hellish experiences.
Did you ever see the Robin Williams the Robin Williams
What
movie,
dreams
What
may
Dreams
come.
May Come?
I've been meaning to watch that. I've heard
Please
about it.
see that.
Yeah,
It
I've
also
heard that
it
it's pretty
also
close.
affirms what you just talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely will have to check that out. I've watched a couple of the movies that I've heard about, like, Phenomenon with John Travolta, I think it is.
John Travolta.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen that one, The Phenomenon? Yeah, that was a good movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, we
really.
had several movies over about a 10-year period that were written or the scripts were doctored by very spiritual and sometimes spiritualist people. The movie Ghost was written by a
Yeah.
medium out in California. Some of the movies we've just talked about. There's one, what is that movie's name? That is phenomenal. It's the best representation of a near death experience that I've ever seen in a movie. I think it's
Christmas
called
Carol?
Resurrection. No,
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Some people say that,
And
that Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol is actually a near-death experience.
yeah, I don't buy that. I've heard that and
Yeah.
I don't buy that. But that's me.
Could
That's like
be.
folks who take Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz and talks about how racist it is and how the different descriptions of it are different things from his culture. And it's like, that's people 80 years later looking back on his culture. And I'm not so sure that they quite understand the context of his writing.
Yeah. Well, and
It's
that's the
it's
same
very
thing
easy
happens with
for
the
us to look
Bible,
back
right?
and judge. It's what?
Yeah. That's the same thing that
No,
happens
what
with,
did you
like,
say?
the Bible. and ancient texts. Like, you try to understand them without the context of knowing the time period in which they were written, and you come up with all kinds of crazy ideas of what that stuff means when really, when he talked about a lake of fire, he was actually talking about the trash dump
Yeah, that's shale.
where they burned stuff. Hey, if you don't straighten up, they're gonna throw you in the trash dump over there.
So the King James Bible, which is a horrible translation, all three of the King James translations are horrible, but they combined Sheol and Gehenna and Tarshish in the one word and then created word.
Yeah.
And Gehenna is the trash dump.
Yes.
Sheol is the place of the dead. Tarshish is the furthest place west. Well, I get so tickled by right now on Facebook. One of the big things that they're trying to sell all of us is how to talk about the Bible to your young people. And if you'll buy this guide, it has a one-page outline of every single book in the Bible and it puts it in the context. And I'm going, that's called a study Bible? You can buy a study Bible, get a New Revised Standard Oxford, get a Harper Collins, get a Jerusalem Bible, get the New American Bible Study Bible. It's cheaper than the thing you're trying to sell us on Facebook, and they've got a whole lot more information.
Yeah.
But people will
They've
buy
been doing
things,
it for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, marketing.
Yes, marketing. It's a sad situation of the world that we live in,
Hey,
which
I
I
hear we've got
believe
3 or 4 I hear we've got 3 or 4 other topics for future podcasts here.
yeah, it could very well you could, easily be my first repeat guest on this new podcast. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about so the theme of the show, right, is awakening, this great awakening that's going on, the raise in the level of consciousness that's happening on this planet. Do you have a take on that at all? Or
Yeah, again, that's gonna take another couple of podcasts.
well, let's try to keep it to 3.5 minutes.
So we're constantly having new people born on the earth, which means we're constantly having people go through these developmental sections. And there comes that period where a person's no longer dualistic, and it's like they're having group oriented and then they're having individual, and they're having an awakening that what they were taught in the past may have kept them safe. That may have been the guard line, the guardrails that they needed
Yeah.
at that point, but they don't need them now. Now they're having a great awakening. So you have all these baby boomers and all these Generation X people, and even some of the millennials that are having a great awakening as they're coming out of their group period to their individual awareness. And Celtic spirituality has been around for 1800 years, but they're being exposed to it now because the internet is allowing such good access. Mystical thought, whether in Western Christianity or Eastern Christianity, or in Islam, the writings of Rumi, the mysticism's been around for centuries as a study, as an officially accepted part of these world religions. But now with the internet, there's this ability of learning from all these different cultures. Now, my fear about it is that people aren't going deep into one particular. They're
Right.
skimming the surface of all these others, and it's like being at a cafeteria. Ooh, I'll take some of that. Ooh, I'll take some of that. And one of the biggest issues in Buddhism in the United States, where it takes roughly 20 years of training to wear your yellow robes. But Americans who are giving money to Buddhist institutions and they've studied maybe 6 months, they want their yellow robe now. They've given
Yeah.
all this money. They'd like their yellow robe now. Hello.
Yeah, that's not quite what it's supposed to be.
No, There's a reason for the tradition. That's like
Do the
in
work.
studying Kabbalah or Kabbalah. It changes its whole understanding, its whole framework once you turn 40. And there's a developmental reason for that. You
'Cause
don't
people
just open
change
up
and
the
they
Kabbalah and learn Tree of Life when you're 12 years old and say, okay, now I know it all.
got that. What's next?
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to call stuff like this spirituality light.
Yes, yes.
There's a depth to so much. And I'm excited that people are doing a spiritual awakening
Mhm.
and coming to an awareness of all this stuff. And I'm thankful for the people who are doing a spiritual depth and assessing and processing and trying to figure out what does fit for them and their path. I'm so thankful that that's happening.
Yeah, a lot of people are having the spiritual awakenings. I mean, like, conversations that we can have now, if you think 30 years ago of trying to have some of these conversations in public, people would think you're crazy, but now people will join in and offer their opinions on these things. Books that never used to be, but now the internet, you can look up any kind of, like you said, religion or belief system that you could find are readily available and people are able to study it. It just feels like the level of the consciousness of humanity is raising, and it's like an exponential raising. And I think that's what people are considering the great awakening, is because our level of consciousness is being raised and raised and raised and raised as a group, as humanity. I think it's what they're talking about with the great awakening.
Let me tell you, I had a great awakening when I was giving a presentation to 600 people. And in the middle of the room, this woman opens up her purse and pulls out her gun. Let
Ugh.
me tell you, I had a great awakening at that moment.
I'm sure you did.
I'm thankful for security, and I'm thankful she was just trying to find her lipstick because once she found it, she put the gun back in the purse.
Well, so once you accepted the call to be ordained and started getting
21.
into a lot of the spiritual things that you got into, I know you said that you lost a lot of your friends. A lot of people walked away from you at that time.
Yeah, I was 21 when that happened
20, well, yeah, I'm sure.
because they thought that I was becoming super religious and they didn't want to be around that. They thought I would be judgmental of them for what all the things they were doing, or else they thought that being around me might harm my career. And so they dropped out. They thought if church members found that I had friends like them, then they dropped away. Yeah, I lost half of my friends the night I was ordained.
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
And you know what? I gained new friends who have been right for me at the times of my journey where they've come into my life.
Mhm.
And I'm very thankful for all the friends I've ever had and will have in the future.
Yeah, people come in and out of our lives as needed. I think that's part of our soul contracts that we have before we even come to the planet in this incarnation. The people are meant to come in and out of our lives at different stages and serve different roles.
How does that fit in with free will?
Well, the way that I've been explained is that you have waypoints along your journey that you set. How you get to those waypoints is up to you. You can
I
go
like
here
that
this
model.
way, or you can go this way, or you can come up underneath it. But eventually, you'll hit these markers in your life that you've chosen.
Like train stations or air airports.
Yeah,
You have to make the
yeah.
connecting flight.
You got to make them connecting flight, and you're going to make the connecting flight because that plane's going to land. What you look like or how you feel when you hit those points. They say that some people's near death experiences are wake up calls to get back on track or exit, one of the two. They have a lot of times they'll have a choice. Do you want to go back or do you just want to stay here? Of course, most people will be like, no, I'm going to stay here. It's pretty cool here. No, you have to go back.
Well, we only hear from the ones who decided to come back.
You got that right. Or who were allowed, who weren't allowed to stay, right? You hear a lot of them, they're like, "I said no." I said, "No, I don't wanna go back. What, are you crazy?" Well, so
Well, this has been fun.
yeah, it has been fun. So I wanna ask you if, listeners could walk away with one grounded takeaway from your story, what would you want that to be?
Uh, Always have hope. The universe is trying to bring hope around to your life. It may not be the path that you're on. It may not be the path that you think you need to be on. It may not be with the people you think you need to be around. It may not be whatever. But if you trust that the universe is trying to bring you around to the right place, you have hope in that, and you have hope in your life and in your journey and in what you're able to do with other people, and then you have hope in your future.
That's good. So if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find you?
It'd be probably my email address, drptwilson@gmail.com.
Okay. And I'll list that in the show notes that people can follow you and get a feel for what you do. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking your time, coming on
Glad to.
and being a
You and I
guest.
just met for the first time in March.
Yeah,
We
it
took a
was
class together, and then I met you for a week at Chesterfield when we had a week of classes. You weren't in any of my classes, but anyway,
I wasn't there yet. I wasn't there yet.
I look forward to that day.
Absolutely, me too. Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Glad to.
PT, for coming on,
Glad
and
to.
I really appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy your day, and thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
great day. All right, bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on Wakened Earth. If today's conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who may need it. A special thank you to our guests for sharing their story and wisdom today. You can find links to connect with them in the show notes. Remember, we're not escaping the human experience. We're waking up inside it. Until next time, I'm Joseph Paul. Be present, stay curious, and keep awakening. Peace.